Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Terra's Hope, watching the massive alien space station grow larger through the viewport. The station belonged to the Nexari, one of the 3 powerful races that controlled most of the galaxy. Their ships looked like giant crystals floating in space, beautiful but deadly. "Another delivery run," said Lisa Grant from the pilot's seat. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and steady hands on the controls. "Same boring cargo, same boring route." Jake nodded but said nothing. The other aliens on the station would see exactly what Lisa described. Humans doing simple work, carrying supplies from one place to another. Nobody important, nobody dangerous. "Docking request approved," came the voice through the communications system. Amy Price, their communications officer, had been talking to station control for the past hour. The aliens always made humans wait longer than other species. It was just another small reminder of where humans stood in the galactic order. Ben, Carter looked up from his engineering station. He was older than the others, maybe 40, with gray starting to show in his black hair. "Engines running smooth. Cargo bay seals checked. We're ready for another exciting day of moving boxes." The crew laughed, but Jake knew better. Those boxes contained more than basic supplies. Hidden inside the regular cargo were scanning devices, recording equipment, and communication gear. For 3 years now, Terra's Hope had been visiting stations and planets across the galaxy, and each time they learned something new about alien military capabilities. As they docked, Jake watched the Nexari workers moving around the station. They were tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished stone. Their technology was advanced, their weapons powerful, and their attitude toward humans was simple. Humans were useful for basic labor and nothing else. "Captain Morrison," came a voice over the intercom. "Please report to Station Commander Zelkath for delivery confirmation." Jake straightened his simple work uniform and headed for the airlock. The corridor that led to the commander's office was wide and bright, designed for beings much taller than humans. Along the walls, he could see display, screens showing star maps, fleet positions, and resource reports. His trained eye memorized every detail. Station Commander Zelkath was typical for his species. 7 feet tall, with glowing blue eyes, and a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. His office was filled with screens showing ships and planets across Nexari space. "Human Morrison," Zelkath said without looking up from his work. "Your cargo manifest shows medical supplies and mining equipment. Standard delivery to Outpost Gamma 7. "Yes, sir," Jake replied, keeping his voice humble and respectful. "Everything according to Federation shipping regulations." Zelkath finally looked at him. "Tell me, human, what do you think of the current situation with the Zephyrian Empire?" Jake pretended to look confused. "I'm sorry, sir, I don't really follow politics. We just deliver cargo where we're told." The Nexari commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Of course, humans and politics." He turned back to his screens. "The Zephyrians have been expanding their territory. Their war fleets grow stronger each month. Soon there may be conflict." "That sounds serious," Jake said, still playing the part of a simple cargo captain. "It is serious. But humans need not worry. When war comes, the 3 great powers will handle it. The Nexari, the Keltar, and the Luminoids have protected the galaxy for thousands of years. Humans will continue their useful work, carrying supplies, maintaining equipment, staying out of the way." Jake nodded as if this made perfect sense. "We're good at staying out of the way, sir." "Indeed you are. Your cargo is cleared for transfer. Complete your delivery and return here for your next assignment." As Jake walked back to his ship, he passed groups of Nexari soldiers. Their weapons were impressive. Energy rifles that could burn through steel, personal shields that could stop most projectiles. But Jake noticed other things too. How they moved in predictable patterns. How they communicated using standard frequencies. How their formations followed the same basic structure he had seen on a dozen other stations. Back on Terra's Hope, his crew was already preparing for departure. They worked with the same casual efficiency they showed everywhere. Just humans doing their simple jobs. "Anything interesting?" Lisa asked as Jake returned to the bridge. "Same as always," Jake replied. but his fingers moved across his personal datapad, typing a coded message that would be transmitted when they were safely away from the station. Ben started the engines while Amy cleared their departure with station control. As they pulled away from the docking bay, Jake looked back at the massive Nexari station. It was a fortress, heavily armed and well defended. But it also followed patterns, had weaknesses, relied on systems that could be understood and countered. Their next stop was a Keltar mining world. The insect-like aliens were different from the Nexari, but just as predictable in their own way. They saw humans as slightly more useful than the Nexari did, but still far beneath their notice. Setting course for the mining world, Lisa reported, should arrive in 18 hours. As they jumped to faster-than-light travel, Jake opened a secure communication channel. The message was brief and coded, but it contained detailed information about Nexari fleet positions, weapon capabilities, and defensive systems. Somewhere in space, other human ships were receiving similar messages. Ships that looked like simple cargo haulers, mining vessels, and maintenance craft. Ships crewed by humans who appeared to be nothing more than workers and traders. The galaxy saw humans as weak, primitive, and harmless. The three great powers were preparing for war with the Zephyrian Empire, confident in their superior technology and ancient military traditions. None of them suspected that the humans moving quietly through their space were gathering information, learning their secrets, and preparing for something very different. Jake looked out at the stars rushing past and allowed himself a small smile. The aliens were right about one thing. Humans were very good at staying out of the way. At least until the moment came when staying out of the way was no longer the plan. In 18 hours, they would reach the Keltar mining world, and the mission would continue. Every day brought new intelligence, new understanding of how the galaxy's military forces really worked, and every day brought them closer to the moment when all that knowledge would finally be put to use. For now, though, they were just another human cargo ship carrying supplies through space, noticed by no one and threatening nothing. Exactly the way they wanted it. The alarm started screaming at Aero 347 station time. Jake Morrison jerked awake in his small quarters aboard Terra's Hope, which was docked at Trading Post Delta 9. The alarm meant only one thing: attack. He grabbed his clothes and ran to the bridge where he found his crew already at their stations. Through the main viewport he could see chaos. Ships were exploding in bright flashes of light. The massive Federation command station, Nexus Prime, was under attack. "What's happening?" Jake asked, as he slid into the captain's chair. Amy Price looked up from her communication station, her face pale. The Zephyrian Empire just launched a full assault on Nexus Prime. Their entire war fleet came out of nowhere. On the main screen, Jake could see the battle. Zephyrian ships were huge, dark vessels that looked like moving mountains. They were covered in weapon ports that fired streams of deadly plasma. Each ship was the size of a small city, and there were dozens of them. "The Federation fleets are scattered," Ben Carter reported from his engineering station. "Most of their ships are weeks away from here. Nexus Prime only had a small defense force." Jake watched as a Nexari crystal ship tried to fight back. Its weapons were powerful, but the Zephyrian vessel was too strong. The crystal ship broke apart like glass, its pieces floating away into space. "They're not even trying to fight fair," Lisa Grant said from the pilot's seat. "They're targeting civilian areas, communication centers, everything." The Zephyrian strategy was simple but effective. They had waited until the Federation's main fleets were far away, then struck at the heart of galactic government. Nexus Prime contained the Federation Council, military command centers, and thousands of civilian workers from every member species. "Incoming transmission," Amy announced. "It's from the Zephyrian fleet commander." The main screen changed to show a Zephyrian general. The aliens looked like massive reptiles with thick scales and glowing red eyes. This one wore armor that seemed to absorb light. "Federation species," the general said in a voice like grinding metal. "Your pathetic alliance ends today. We have taken Nexus Prime and captured your leaders. Any ship that approaches this system will be destroyed. You have 1 day to surrender all military forces, or we will begin executing prisoners." The transmission ended. Around the trading post, Jake could see alien ships starting to panic. Some were trying to run. Others were sending desperate messages to their homeworlds. The Federation Council is trying to respond, Amy reported. But half their communication systems are down. The Zephyrians hit the main relay stations first. Jake's personal communicator buzzed with an incoming message. The code was one he had been waiting 3 years to see. He read it quickly, then deleted it. Amy, open a secure channel, he ordered. Use Communication Protocol 7. Amy looked confused, but followed the order. Channel open, sir. This is Jake Morrison aboard Terra's Hope, he said into the communicator. Confirm Protocol 7 activation. The response came immediately. Protocol 7 confirmed. All units proceed to designated coordinates. Admiral Rodriguez sends her regards. Jake's crew stared at him. They had known their cargo runs were more than simple deliveries, but this was the first time they had heard Jake use military protocols. Sir, Lisa asked, what's Protocol 7? Jake stood up and walked to the main communications panel. Amy, I need you to send a coded transmission to the following coordinates. He rattled off a series of numbers that meant nothing to alien listeners but would reach every human ship in the sector. Ben, start charging our real engines. Lisa, plot a course for grid reference Alpha 77. Sir, Ben said slowly, we don't have real engines. This is a cargo ship. Jake smiled for the first time since the alarm started. No, Ben. This was a cargo ship. Amy, transmit the activation codes. Amy's fingers moved across her control panel. Across the ship, systems that had been hidden for 3 years started coming online. In the cargo bay, false walls slid away to reveal weapons and fighter craft. The ship's hull began to shift as armor plating extended and weapon ports opened. What the hell? Lisa whispered. Through the viewport, they could see other human ships beginning to change as well. The simple mining vessel Earth's Fortune was growing gun turrets. The maintenance ship New Boston was launching fighter squadrons. All around the trading post, human vessels were revealing their true nature. Ladies and gentlemen, Jake announced, allow me to introduce you to the UES Terra's Hope destroyer-class Earth Defense Force. The bridge itself was changing. Hidden control panels were sliding out of the walls. Additional screens were activating. The ship's computer spoke in a new voice, all systems online. Weapons ready. Fighter bay prepared for launch. This is impossible, Ben said, staring at his new engineering displays. These systems, they're more advanced than anything the Federation has. Jake took his place at what was now clearly a military command station. For 50 years, humanity has been preparing for this day. While the galaxy saw us as simple workers, we were building the largest fleet in galactic history. On the main screen, the battle around Nexus Prime continued. The Zephyrian ships were methodically destroying anything that came near. Federation forces were in full retreat. Sir, Amy said, I'm picking up transmissions from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Rodriguez is leading the main fleet from Outpost 7. And where exactly is Outpost 7? Lisa asked. Jake pointed out the viewport toward what looked like a large asteroid. Right there. That mining operation has been our main base for the last 5 years. As they watched, the asteroid began to break apart. But it wasn't being destroyed. It was opening. Hidden inside was a massive space station. Docking bays slid open and hundreds of human warships began emerging. Dear God, Ben whispered. How many ships do we have? More than the Zephyrians, Jake replied. More than the Federation ever imagined. We've been building them in secret bases throughout the galaxy, using resources we gathered during our cargo runs. The ships emerging from Outpost 7 were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They were sleek and deadly, designed for speed and coordination rather than individual power. Each one was smaller than a Zephyrian battleship, but there were so many of them. All human vessels, this is Admiral Rodriguez, came a voice over the communication system. Form up for assault formation. Today we show the galaxy what humans are really capable of. Jake looked at his crew. I know this is a lot to take in, but right now thousands of innocent beings are trapped on Nexus Prime. The Federation thinks they have to surrender to save them. They're wrong. Lisa was staring at her new pilot controls. These systems, I've never seen anything like them. You've trained on them, Jake said. Every simulation you thought was just for fun, every drill you thought was meaningless, it was all preparation for this moment. Ben was examining his engineering displays with growing amazement. The power output alone. How did we hide all this? Very carefully, Jake replied. And with a lot of help from people who believed that someone needed to be ready when this day came. Amy looked up from her communication station. Sir, I'm receiving battle plans from the Fleet Command. We're designated as part of Strike Group 7. Jake nodded and sat down in his command chair. Then let's go rescue some hostages and show the Zephyrians what humans do to bullies. As Terra's Hope joined the growing human fleet, Jake felt a mixture of excitement and determination. For 3 years he had played the role of a simple cargo captain. Today he would show the galaxy that humans were anything but simple. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching as her fleet formed up around Outpost 7. 500 human warships hung in space, their weapons powered and ready. For the first time in 50 years, humanity was about to show its true military strength. All fleet commanders report ready, announced Commander Ryan Cole from the communication station. Strike groups 1 through 8 are in position. Elena nodded. Around her, the command crew worked with smooth efficiency. These people had trained their entire lives for this moment, studying every aspect of galactic warfare, while the rest of the galaxy believed humans were incapable of real military action. Admiral, called Captain Nina Walsh from the tactical station. Zephyrian fleet composition confirmed. 47 heavy battleships, over 200 support vessels. They're holding position around Nexus Prime in a defensive sphere. Elena studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian formation was impressive but predictable. Like most alien species, they relied on raw firepower and intimidation. Their ships were massive and heavily armed, designed to win battles through superior, individual strength. They're doing exactly what we expected, Elena said, maintaining a static defense, daring anyone to attack them directly. Colonel Matt Stevens, commanding Strike Group 3, appeared on the communication screen. Admiral, my ships are ready to begin the approach. The Zephyrians won't know what hit them. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Matt's group consisted of 30 destroyers, each one faster and more maneuverable than anything the Zephyrians had. More importantly, they were designed to work together in ways that alien military doctrine had never considered. Begin Phase 1, Elena ordered. Across the fleet, human ships started moving, but instead of charging directly at the enemy like Federation forces would have done, they spread out in a complex pattern that looked random, but was actually carefully planned. Captain Jake Morrison, aboard the Terra's Hope, received his orders and felt his pulse quicken. Lisa, take us to Grid 7 Alpha. Ben, I want maximum stealth mode. Stealth mode? Lisa asked as she adjusted their course. Watch and learn, Jake replied. Around them, human ships began to disappear. Not literally, but their energy signatures faded as stealth systems activated. To Zephyrian sensors, the human fleet seemed to be breaking apart and running away. Zephyrian commander is transmitting, Amy reported. He's telling his ships to hold position, says the humans are retreating like cowards. Jake grinned. Perfect. That's exactly what we want him to think. But the human ships weren't retreating. They were moving into positions around Nexus Prime using stealth technology that the galaxy had never seen. Small groups of ships were approaching from dozens of different directions, staying hidden until the moment they were needed. Admiral Rodriguez watched the tactical display as her ships moved into position. Status report all groups. Group 1 in position, reported Commander Cole. Group 2 ready, came another voice. Group 3 standing by. One by one, 8 different strike groups reported their readiness. Each group was approaching Nexus Prime from a different angle, hidden by stealth systems and moving in patterns that Zephyrian sensors couldn't track. Ma'am, Captain Walsh said, we're detecting some movement in the Zephyrian fleet. Looks like they're getting nervous. Elena could understand why. From the Zephyrian perspective, a large human fleet had appeared, seemed to panic, and then mostly disappeared. A few human ships were still visible, but they looked like stragglers trying to escape. "Admiral," came Matt Stevens' voice. "We're in position. Zephyrian battleship Death's Edge is directly ahead. They have no idea we're here." Elena took a deep breath. 50 years of preparation had led to this moment. "All groups, this is Admiral Rodriguez. Begin Phase 2. Around Nexus Prime, space suddenly filled with human warships as stealth systems deactivated. The Zephyrians found themselves surrounded by enemies that had appeared from nowhere. But the real shock came when the human ships opened fire. Instead of the random individual attacks that characterized most space battles, the human fleet moved like a single organism. Ships that were dozens of kilometers apart coordinated their fire, with perfect timing. Weapons struck Zephyrian targets from multiple angles simultaneously. "Target the Death's Edge," Matt Stevens ordered his group. All ships, synchronized fire pattern Beta 7. 30 human destroyers fired as one. Their weapons weren't as powerful as Zephyrian battleship guns, but they hit the same target at exactly the same moment. The Zephyrian ship's shields flared and failed under the coordinated assault. "Direct hit," reported one of Matt's captains. "Enemy shields down, hull breaches, on multiple decks." Similar attacks were happening throughout the battle zone. Human ships used tactics that no alien species had ever developed. Perfect coordination between multiple vessels, precisely timed attacks, and the ability to adapt their strategy in real time. Captain Morrison found himself commanding Terra's Hope in a 3-ship formation with 2 other destroyers.
"Amy, link our targeting systems with the Boston and the Liberty." "Links established," Amy reported. "Fire on my mark," Jake ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. 3 ships fired simultaneously at a Zephyrian cruiser. The enemy vessel never
had a chance to respond as multiple weapon beams struck its engine section at precisely the same moment. "Enemy ship disabled," Lisa reported with excitement in her voice. "Jake, this is incredible. How are we doing this?" "Training," Jake replied. "And something the aliens never learned, how to really work together." The Zephyrian fleet was in chaos. Their ships were designed to fight as individual units, relying on their superior size and firepower. But the human fleet fought as a connected network, with every ship supporting every other ship. "Zephyrian fleet is trying to regroup," reported Captain Walsh from Admiral Rodriguez's flagship. "They're pulling their ships into a tighter formation." Elena nodded. "They're doing what their doctrine tells them to do. Time for Phase 3. Around Nexus Prime, the human fleet suddenly changed tactics again. Instead of continuing their coordinated attacks, they shifted to hit-and-run strikes. Small groups of ships would appear, strike hard at a target, then disappear back into stealth mode before the Zephyrians could respond. "This is like fighting ghosts," one Zephyrian commander transmitted to his fleet. "They appear, attack, and vanish before we can lock weapons on them." Admiral Rodriguez listened to the intercepted Zephyrian communications with satisfaction. "That's the idea. Nina, what's our casualty report?" "Minimal losses," Captain Walsh replied. "We've disabled or destroyed 30% of their fleet and they've barely scratched us." The reason was simple. Human tactics were unlike anything the Zephyrians had prepared for. Their weapons were designed to fight other battleships in direct combat. Their sensors were built to track large, powerful ships. Their strategies assumed that enemies would fight in predictable patterns. None of that worked against a fleet that could coordinate perfectly, appear and disappear at will, and adapt its tactics faster than the enemy could respond. "Admiral," Matt Stevens reported, "we've cleared a path to Nexus Prime. Strike Group 5 can begin the rescue operation." Elena felt a surge of pride as she watched her fleet execute maneuvers that had been planned and practiced for decades. "Approved. Begin rescue operations." As specialized human ships moved toward the captured station, Elena reflected on how this moment had been 50 years in the making. While the galaxy had dismissed humans as weak and primitive, Earth's best minds had been studying, planning, and preparing for the day when humanity would need to step forward and protect the innocent. That day had finally arrived, and the galaxy was about to learn that humans had always been far more than they appeared. Major Tony Clark crouched behind a collapsed wall on Level 7 of Nexus Prime. listening to the sounds of battle echoing through the station corridors. His Marine squad was deep inside the captured Federation command center, moving toward the detention areas where Zephyrian forces were holding thousands of alien prisoners. "Contact ahead," whispered Sergeant Kelly Brooks, peering around the corner with her scanner. 6 Zephyrians, heavy armor, plasma rifles. Tony nodded and signaled to his team. Unlike the aliens fighting outside in space, his Marines had to handle this the hard way, up close and personal, moving through corridors designed for beings much larger than humans. "Remember the plan," Tony said quietly into his helmet communicator. "We're not here to fight fair. We're here to win." The Zephyrian soldiers were positioned at a checkpoint, blocking the main corridor. They were massive creatures, 8 feet, tall and covered in thick battle armor. Their weapons could burn through steel, and their natural scales provided additional protection. But they were thinking like Zephyrians, powerful, direct, and predictable. Tony's squad moved through the air, station's maintenance tunnels, paths too small for Zephyrian soldiers but perfect for humans. While the enemy watched the main corridor, the Marines approached from above, below, and through side passages. "In position," came whispers from his team members. "Execute," Tony ordered. The attack came from 6 different directions at once. Flashbang. Grenades exploded, filling the corridor with blinding light and deafening sound. The Zephyrians stumbled, their enhanced senses overwhelmed by the assault. Before they could recover, the human Marines struck. They didn't try to match the aliens' raw strength. Instead, they used speed, teamwork, and precision. Specialized weapons designed to penetrate Zephyrian armor found weak points in joints and helmet seals. Within 30 seconds, the checkpoint was secured. "Move up," Tony ordered. "We've got civilians to save." As his squad advanced through the station, Tony could hear reports from other Marine units scattered throughout Nexus Prime. Captain Sam Burke was leading a team toward the main detention center. Lieutenant Dana Fox had secured the communication hub. Every group was using the same tactics: speed, surprise, and perfect coordination. "Major Clark," came a voice through his communicator. "This is Admiral Rodriguez. How's the ground operation proceeding?" "Better than expected, ma'am," Tony replied, stepping over the unconscious Zephyrian soldiers. "The enemy is having trouble adapting to our tactics. They keep expecting us to fight like they do." "Excellent. Priority target is the Federation Council. Chambers on level 1. We need those officials alive." "Understood. We're 40 minutes out." Tony's squad reached a junction where 3 corridors met. According to the station blueprints, one path led to the detention centers, another to the council chambers, and the third to the main reactor room. "Brooks, take half the squad and head for the detention center," Tony ordered. "Free as many prisoners as you can. I'll take the rest toward the council chambers." "Roger that, sir." As Kelly Brooks led her team down the left corridor, Tony heard her voice over the communicator. "Holy hell, sir. There are hundreds of them down here. Nexari, Keltar, Luminoids, all locked up in energy cages. Can you get them out?" "Working. On it. These Zephyrian lock systems are tough, but our tech specialist says he can crack them." Tony continued toward the council chambers with the remaining Marines. As they moved through the station, he marveled at how well their training was paying off. For years, human Marines had practiced fighting in confined spaces against larger, stronger opponents. They had studied every known alien combat doctrine and developed counters for each one. The Zephyrians fought like their ships, relying on overwhelming force and direct confrontation. But humans had learned to fight differently, using the environment, their smaller size, and their ability to work together in ways that larger species couldn't match. "Contact ahead," reported Corporal Lisa White. "Looks like a major checkpoint. Maybe 20 Zephyrians, heavy weapons, energy barriers." Tony studied the tactical display on his helmet screen. The checkpoint was designed to stop any conventional assault, a killing field with overlapping fields of fire and strong defensive positions. "We're not going conventional," Tony decided. "White, can you get into the ventilation system?" "Already on it, sir." "Good. Take 2 Marines and get above them. Rodriguez, you and Chen find a way around to their flanks. Peterson, you're with me." As his team spread out, Tony reflected on how different this was from alien military thinking. Most species fought in rigid formations, following established tactics that had worked for thousands of years. Humans adapted constantly, changing their approach based on the specific situation. In position, came reports from around the checkpoint. "Wait for my signal," Tony whispered. Through his helmet display, he could see the Zephyrian soldiers. They were alert but confident, watching the main approaches for a direct assault that would never come. "Execute in 3, 2, 1, go." The attack came from everywhere at once. Smoke grenades filled the checkpoint with dense clouds that confused Zephyrian sensors. Marines dropped from ceiling vents, while others appeared from side passages. Non-lethal weapons stunned the defenders before they could organize a response. The checkpoint fell in less than 2 minutes. "Beautiful work," Tony said as his team regrouped. "The council chambers are just ahead." They found the Federation leaders in a large conference room, surrounded by Zephyrian guards. The aliens were in a heated discussion about what to do with their prisoners when the humans struck. This time, the attack was even more precise. The guards were neutralized with stunners while the prisoners remained untouched. Within moments, the most important political leaders in the galaxy were free. "Council Speaker Zerkath," Tony said, helping the tall Nexari leader to his feet. "Are you injured?" No, I am unharmed," the alien replied, clearly confused. "But how? Your species lacks the military capability for such an operation." Tony smiled inside his helmet. "Apparently not, sir. We're evacuating all prisoners to safety. Please stay close to my Marines." As they moved through the station toward the evacuation points, Tony listened to reports from across Nexus Prime. Human forces had secured every major section of the station. Thousands of prisoners were being freed and evacuated to safety. "Sir," came Kelly Brooks's voice, "detention centers are cleared. We've got everyone out and they're heading for the evacuation shuttles." "Outstanding. What about casualties?" "Minimal. On our side. Most of the Zephyrians are just stunned. They'll wake up with headaches, but they'll live." Tony nodded with satisfaction. That was another difference between humans and most alien species. While the Zephyrians had come to conquer and dominate, the humans had come to rescue and protect. Every Marine had been trained to use minimum necessary force to save lives rather than simply defeat enemies. "Major Clark," came Admiral Rodriguez's voice. "Space battle is winding down. The Zephyrian fleet is in full retreat. How's the station?" "Secure. Ma'am, all prisoners freed, all hostiles neutralized. We're ready for extraction." "Excellent work. Evacuation shuttles are on their way." As Tony led the rescued Federation officials toward the docking bays, he could see human shuttles approaching through the viewports. The small, fast ships moved with the same coordination that characterized the entire rescue operation. "Council," Speaker Zerkath walked beside him, still struggling to understand what had happened. "Major, Clark, was it? How is this possible? Human military doctrine shows no capability for operations of this complexity." Tony looked at the tall alien and realized that the galaxy's understanding of humanity was about to change completely. "Sir, with respect, human military doctrine that you've seen was designed to keep you from understanding our real capabilities." "You mean?" "I mean, we've been preparing for this day for 50 years. Today, the galaxy learned that humans are a lot more dangerous than anyone imagined." As they boarded the evacuation shuttle, Tony could see the human fleet outside, its ships moving in perfect formation as they secured the area around Nexus Prime. The age of human deception was over. The age of human protection had begun. 6 hours after the battle began, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Terra's Hope, watching as the last Zephyrian ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel. The massive enemy fleet that had seemed unstoppable that morning was now scattered and broken, fleeing for their lives. "Final casualty report," Admiral Rodriguez announced over the fleet communication system. "Zephyrian losses: 41 ships destroyed, 36 disabled, remainder in full retreat. Human losses: 0 ships destroyed, 4 ships with minor damage, total personnel casualties under 50. Jake shook his head in amazement. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been completely defeated by a species they considered weak and primitive. "Sir," Amy Price called from her communications station, "we're receiving transmission requests from every major government in the galaxy. The Nexari High Command, the Keltar Queen, the Luminoid Collective, everyone wants to talk." "I bet they do," Jake replied. Around Nexus Prime, the human fleet maintained formation, their weapons still powered but no longer needed. The space battle had been so one-sided that most Zephyrian ships had surrendered rather than face destruction. On the main viewer, Jake could see other human vessels completing their missions. Rescue shuttles were returning from the station with the last of the freed prisoners. Engineering teams were already beginning repairs to the damaged sections of Nexus Prime. Medical ships were treating both alien civilians and captured Zephyrian soldiers. "Captain Morrison," came Admiral Rodriguez's voice over a private channel, "report to the Defiant for debriefing. Bring your senior staff." "On our way, ma'am." An hour later, Jake and his crew found themselves in the main conference room of the Admiral's flagship. The room was filled with human officers from across the fleet, ship captains, marine commanders, intelligence specialists, and technical experts. Admiral Rodriguez stood at the head of the table, looking tired but satisfied. Behind her, large screens showed the current tactical situation across the galaxy. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "today marks the end of a 50-year deception and the beginning of a new era for humanity and galactic affairs." She gestured to the screens. "As we speak, every major government is scrambling to understand what just happened. The Nexari are calling emergency council sessions. The Keltar are reviewing their entire military doctrine. The Luminoids are trying to figure out how we hid such a large fleet for so long." Colonel Matt Stevens, who had commanded one of the main strike groups, raised his hand. "Admiral, what about the Zephyrian Empire? They still have most of their fleet intact." "True," Rodriguez nodded. "But they've learned that they can't simply overwhelm the Federation anymore. Our intelligence suggests they're already pulling back their forces to defensive positions." Jake looked around the room at the faces of men and women who had spent years pretending to be simple cargo haulers, miners, and maintenance workers. "Ma'am, what happens now? Do we keep pretending to be weak?" Admiral Rodriguez smiled. "No, Captain, the deception phase is over. From now on, humanity takes its rightful place as the Federation's primary defense force." She touched a control, and the screens changed to show Federation space. For too long, the galaxy has been vulnerable to aggressive powers like the Zephyrian Empire. The three great powers, Nexari, Keltar, and Luminoids, are advanced and sophisticated, but they think about warfare in old ways. They couldn't adapt to modern threats. Major Tony Clark, who had led the Marine assault on Nexus Prime, leaned forward. "So we're officially the Federation's military now?" "Not exactly," Rodriguez replied. "We're offering our services as protectors and advisors. Each member species will maintain their own defense forces, but humanity will coordinate overall galactic security." The implications were staggering. For 50 years, humans had been treated as second-class citizens in the galactic community. Now they were being asked to lead it. "Admiral," asked Captain Nina Walsh, "how do we know the other species will accept this arrangement?" Rodriguez touched her control again, and audio began playing from communication intercepts around the galaxy. "This is Nexari High Command to all fleet units," came one transmission. "Establish immediate contact with human military leadership. We require consultation on defensive strategies." Another voice followed. "Keltar Queen to Federation Council. Request formal alliance negotiations with Earth Defense Force immediately." Luminoid. "Collective agrees to technology sharing agreements with Human Fleet Command," came a third message. Jake felt a mixture of pride and amazement. The same species that had dismissed humans as primitives were now desperately seeking their help and guidance. "The truth is," Admiral Rodriguez continued, "they need us more than we need them. Today proved that human military thinking is 50 years ahead of anyone else in the galaxy. Our ships, our tactics, our coordination abilities, nothing like it has ever been seen before." Ben Carter, Jake's engineer, spoke up. "Ma'am, I have to ask, how did we keep all this secret for so long? The shipyards, the training, the technology development? Very carefully, Rodriguez replied. And with help from thousands of humans who believed that someday we'd need to step up and protect the innocent. Every mining operation that produced ships instead of ore. Every cargo run that was actually a reconnaissance mission. Every maintenance worker who was actually a highly trained specialist. She gestured around the room. Everyone in this fleet volunteered for a mission that might never have been needed. You all spent years living lies, playing roles, hiding your true capabilities. Today that sacrifice paid off. Jake thought about the past 3 years aboard Terra's Hope, pretending to be a simple cargo captain while actually gathering intelligence across the galaxy. It had been hard sometimes being treated as inferior by aliens who didn't understand what humans were really capable of. "What about the Zephyrians?" asked Lisa Grant. "Are we going to hunt down their remaining forces?" "Admiral," Rodriguez nodded. "Not to destroy them, but to make sure they understand the new reality. A galaxy protected by humans is a galaxy where aggressive expansion doesn't work anymore." She stood up and walked to the main screen, which now showed the entire galactic map. For thousands of years, this galaxy has known only the law of the strongest. Whoever had the biggest ships and the most powerful weapons could take whatever they wanted. Today, we prove that intelligence, coordination, and the willingness to protect others is stronger than raw force. Major Clark smiled. "So what's our first official mission as the galaxy's protectors?" "Reconstruction," Rodriguez replied. "We help rebuild what was damaged, strengthen what was weak, and make sure that what happened today never needs to happen again." As the briefing continued, Jake looked out through the conference room's viewports at the human fleet. Ships that had been hidden for decades now flew openly, their true capabilities revealed. Crews that had pretended to be simple workers now stood ready to defend the entire galaxy. "Sir?" Amy Price asked quietly. "Are you okay with all this? Being responsible for protecting everyone?" Jake considered the question. It was a huge responsibility, and it would change everything about how humans lived in the galaxy. No more hiding, no more pretending to be weak, no more being dismissed by other species. "Amy," he said finally, "I think we've been responsible for protecting everyone all along. Today, we just stopped pretending we weren't." As the human fleet began spreading out across Federation space, taking up defensive positions that would guard against future threats, Jake felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The galaxy would never be the same. For the first time in galactic history, the strong would protect the weak, not because they had to, but because it was the right thing to do. And at the center of it all, humanity had finally revealed what it truly was. Not the weakest species in the galaxy, but its strongest protector. The age of human guardianship had begun.